What if Count Dooku had told Obi Wan that Palpatine was Sidious? How would that change things? Let's find out. So in this timeline, right before going to speak with the captured Obi Wan, Dooku would sit down and wonder what he should do at this point. He was a man of considerable intellect and power, and he had at this point spent years navigating the treacherous waters of galactic politics. Yet now, as he prepared to confront the captured Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi, Dooku found himself at a crossroads. He considered his position carefully. The droid army was vast and under his command, capable of challenging the Republic's forces on numerous fronts. The clone army, a seemingly perfect tool for the Jedi, was in fact a trap laid by Sidious and Dooku, designed to bring the fall of the Jedi Order. Dooku's eyes narrowed as he thought of Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith. It was Sidious who had been responsible for the death of Dooku's former apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, or at least that's how Dooku saw it. The loss of Qui-Gon had been a personal blow, one that had driven Dooku further to the dark side, to further his vision for the galaxy. As he sat there, thinking about all this, Dooku realized that he no longer needed Sidious to achieve his vision of a new order in the galaxy. He could rule it himself, bringing about the changes that he believed were necessary to end the corruption and chaos that plagued the Republic. And Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon's own apprentice and a Jedi of considerable skill and integrity, could prove to be a valuable ally in this endeavor, Dooku thought. But there was another, darker truth that Dooku could not ignore. The way of the Sith was one of treachery and betrayal. Sidious had chosen Dooku as his apprentice, but the Sith Lord would not hesitate to dispose of him if it suited his purpose. The fact that Dooku had already seen Sidious do this with Maul furthered his conviction on the matter. This was the way of the Sith, a cycle of power and betrayal that had repeated for generations. If Dooku did not act first, Sidious would undoubtedly strike against him. And with all this decided, Dooku rose from his seat, his decision made. He would reveal the truth to Obi-Wan, not out of desperation, but as a calculated move to rid the galaxy of Sidious and seize power for himself. Dooku moved with purpose through the brightly lit corridors of the Geonosis stronghold, his dark cloak billowing behind him. The sound of his footsteps echoed off the metal walls, a prelude to the confrontation that was about to unfold. Entering the interrogation chamber, Dooku found Obi-Wan suspended in the air by energy shackles. His body held aloft by a combination of anti-gravity technology and energy restraints that glowed a faint blue light. Obi-Wan's eyes, however, were defiant, but there was a hint of curiosity as he looked at Dooku. Dooku's own expression, a mask of calm determination. "Traitor," Obi-Wan said, looking at Dooku. Following which, Dooku responded, and the two had a few exchanges. None too important. But then, Dooku said the following. "It's a great pity that our paths have never crossed before, Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon always spoke very highly of you. I wish he were still here. I could use his help, right now." Obi-Wan's eyes narrowed. "Qui-Gon Jinn would never join you," he said. Dooku sighed, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "Don't be so sure, my young Jedi. You forget. He was once my apprentice, just as you were once his. He knew all about the corruption in the Senate, but he would never have gone along with it if he had learned the truth, as I have." "The truth?" Obi-Wan asked, his voice laced with skepticism. "The truth," Dooku confirmed. "What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?" Obi-Wan's expression hardened. "No, that's not possible. The Jedi would be aware of it." Dooku shook his head. "The dark side of the Force has clouded their vision, my friend. Hundreds of senators are now under the influence of a Sith Lord called Darth Sidious." "I don't believe you," Obi-Wan said firmly. "The Viceroy of the Trade Federation was once in league with this Darth Sidious, but he was betrayed 10 years ago by the Dark Lord. He came to me for help, told me everything. You must join me, Obi-Wan, and together we will destroy the Sith." "I will never join you, Dooku," Obi-Wan responded, his voice resolute. Dooku's eyes flickered with a mixture of frustration and resolve. "Then let me tell you more, Obi-Wan. Sidious is not some shadowy figure hiding in the dark. He is much closer to you than you realize. In fact, you've spoken to him numerous times, Obi-Wan. Darth Sidious is none other than Chancellor Palpatine of Naboo." Obi-Wan's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. "That's impossible. Palpatine's just a politician," Obi-Wan said. Dooku's voice grew more intense. "He's a master of deception, Obi-Wan. Palpatine has manipulated the entire galaxy, orchestrating this soon-to-be war to weaken the Jedi, the Republic, and the Separatists, all with the goal of seizing ultimate power over all." Obi-Wan shook his head, struggling to comprehend the gravity of Dooku's words. "If what you say is true, Dooku, then why now? Why reveal this to me?" Dooku's gaze hardened. "Because the time has come for action. The clone army, which I'm sure you've discovered on Kamino, is a trap. created with the sole purpose of destroying the Jedi. Sidious foresaw a great war, Obi-Wan, and ordered the army, but he was manipulated by Sidious's master, Darth Plagueis, otherwise known as Ego Damask, who was a Mune financier. Plagueis provided the funds and directed Sidious to Kamino. And after Sidious had ordered the army, it was I who killed Sidious with the help of the Pikes. Obi-Wan's mind raced, piecing together the implications. You killed Sidious? Yes, Obi-Wan. There was no other way, Dooku admitted. I then presented myself as a Jedi to the Kaminoans and took over the project. They know me as Tyrannus, and they believe that I am a Jedi whose involvement should be kept hidden. They are very much in the dark about a great many things, Obi-Wan. The clone troopers, all of them, have biochips implanted in their heads. The Kaminoans believe that the purpose of these chips is to make the clones more obedient to orders, but their true purpose is something else. Their purpose is to compel the clones to carry out Order 66 when Palpatine executes it. The Order 66, its intention is to turn the clones against every single Jedi of the Order, to wipe the Jedi out. This is Sidious's plan on defeating the Jedi. But hearing this, Obi-Wan's mind made another connection. So you're in league with the Sidious, Dooku? I was, Obi-Wan. I thought, with his help, I could rebuild the galaxy to stop corruption, but I see now that it was a mistake. The rule of Sidious will be no better than the rule of the Republic. So we must stop him, Obi-Wan, before it's too late. Join me, and together we can end his reign of terror. Obi-Wan took a deep breath, his mind torn between doubt and the urgent need to act. I cannot join you, Dooku, but I will take this information to the Jedi Council. They will help. They will look into your claims. If there is any truth to your words, we will act. Dooku nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. Very well, but remember, Obi-Wan, time is running out. Sidious will not wait for you to make your move. With that, Dooku left the chamber. And then, soon after Dooku left, two Geonosians entered the chamber. They disengaged the shackles holding Obi-Wan in place, following which they made a series of clicks and hisses. Although their language was foreign to him, their intent was clear. Obi-Wan stood and followed them through the corridors of the Geonosian hive. The air was thick with a damp, earthy smell, and the walls seemed to pulse with an organic, almost living energy. The occasional sound of machinery echoed through the passageways, creating an eerie ambient noise. This noise, of course, was from the droid factories, which Obi-Wan had seen earlier. Soon, the trio emerged from the subterranean tunnels into open air, where the vast expanse of Geonosian spires stretched out before them. The harsh desert cast long shadows, and the wind kicked up dust that settled on everything. The Geonosians then led Obi-Wan to a secluded landing area, where Obi-Wan's starfighter awaited. The Geonosians backed away and disappeared into the spire, their task complete. Obi-Wan climbed into the cockpit, but his instincts told him to remain cautious. He did not know if Dooku was planning to shoot him down when he went airborne or something, and he was also not sure if his starfighter had been tampered with, because, again, side note, Obi-Wan still didn't agree to join Dooku, so Obi-Wan fears that Dooku might just destroy him, as opposed to allowing him to leave Geonosis with the crucial information that Sidious is Palpatine, so Obi-Wan didn't want to risk it. He knew that his long-range transmitter had been damaged from the earlier skirmish with Jango Fett and couldn't reach Coruscant, and so, left with no choice, he again activated his comlink to contact Anakin, who was closer to him than Coruscant. And also, by this point, Anakin and Padme were making their way over to Geonosis to try and rescue Obi-Wan. But anyways, Obi-Wan contacted Anakin, and Anakin soon answered. And as the figure of Anakin materialized before him, Obi-Wan said the following: "Anakin, do you read me?" After a brief moment, Anakin's voice crackled through the comlink. "Master, I hear you. Senator Amidala insisted on coming to your rescue. What happened?" Obi-Wan's brow furrowed. "The Senator? Anakin, you were supposed to protect her, not bring her to this dangerous place. She's the one who wanted to save you, Master. I came along to make sure she stayed safe while attempting to do that." Anakin replied, his tone defensive but resolute. Obi-Wan sighed, realizing that arguing can wait. "Very well, Anakin. I've managed to escape. I've transmitted my coordinates to you, so land where I am and be careful." And Anakin, having noted the receipt of Obi-Wan's location, said that he and Padme are on their way, and in the meanwhile Obi-Wan should find a place to perhaps stay hidden. Obi-Wan agreed, and the transmission ended. So Obi-Wan waited, his senses alert for any sign of treachery. The landscape around him was a stark, alien beauty. Jagged spires rising from the desert floor, casting sharp shadows in the afternoon sun. He scanned the horizon, the quiet of his surroundings interrupted only by the occasional distant hum of Geonosian activity. Soon he received another transmission from Anakin. He and Padme were close and were making their approach. And soon, Obi Wan saw Padme's star skiff approaching, a welcome sight. The sleek, silver vessel descended smoothly, touching down close to Obi Wan. The hatch of the star skiff then opened, and Anakin and Padme emerged, both looking determined. "We need to leave immediately," Obi Wan said as he approached them, and Anakin nodded. "Let's go then, Master," he said. And moments after, as they took off, Obi Wan kept a watchful eye on the surroundings. The Geonosian spires grew smaller in the distance as they ascended, but a sense of unease lingered. After they exited the atmosphere of Geonosis, Obi Wan turned to Anakin, his expression one of urgency and contemplation. "Anakin, we need to go to Naboo," Obi Wan instructed, his tone firm. "You need to stay with Amidala to keep her safe." Anakin's brow furrowed, concern etched across his features. "What about you, Master? What happened on Geonosis?" Anakin asked. "I managed to escape, Anakin," Obi-Wan replied, evading the full truth. "But there's no time to discuss the details. We must ensure Padme's safety first. Then from Naboo, I'll head to Coruscant to report to the Council." And Anakin agreed. And after this discussion, the starskiff changed course, setting its trajectory to Naboo, the vessel cutting through the stars with an almost serene precision. As they traveled, the tension within the ship was palpable. Anakin remained silent, glancing occasionally at Obi-Wan, questions lingering in his eyes. And Obi-Wan used this time to contact the Council, specifically Master Windu, as Yoda was not available. Obi-Wan told Mace as well that he had escaped from Geonosis, but that he hadn't covered much on Geonosis. The reason Obi-Wan doesn't divulge all the details over the whole transmission was because he was afraid that, if what Dooku said is true, Sidious might be watching. But he does tell Windu that there is much he can't say over the whole transmission. And so Mace says that he will wait for Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan says he'll soon be on Coruscant and ends the transmission. Upon arrival at Naboo, the lush, verdant landscape of the planet was in stark contrast to the desolate deserts of Geonosis. The vibrant greens and tranquil waters of the planet provided a sense of calm and safety. The starskiff landed smoothly on the outskirts of Theed, the capital of Naboo, near a secluded villa where Padme could stay safe. "Anakin, stay with Padme," Obi-Wan instructed as they disembarked. "Ensure her safety at all costs. I have to get to Coruscant immediately." Anakin nodded. "I'll keep her safe, Master." "What happened on Geonosis?" Obi-Wan hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "I escaped, Anakin, and that's what matters. There are things I need to report to the Council directly. It's complicated." Anakin, sensing Obi-Wan's reluctance, refrained from pressing further. "All right, Master. May the Force be with you, and be careful." Obi-Wan said the same, and with a final nod, he boarded a separate starship and set a course for Coruscant. As he traveled through hyperspace, Obi-Wan's mind raced with the revelations Dooku had shared. He knew that confronting the Council about this information would be pivotal. Upon arrival at Coruscant, the bustling city planet was as chaotic as ever. Obi-Wan wasted no time, heading straight to the Jedi Temple upon arrival. Inside the temple, he was met by Mace Windu, whose stern expression softened slightly at the sight of Obi-Wan. "Welcome back, Obi-Wan. We have much to discuss." "As do I, Master," Obi-Wan replied, his voice heavy with the weight of his revelations. "But first tell me what transpired here." "Palpatine has been granted emergency powers, thanks to Jar Jar Binks' and our proposal. With the Separatists already having created an army, there was no point in delaying the Military Creation Act. We had to immediately use the clone army, and Representative Binks proposed the Senate give Palpatine emergency powers, and it passed. Master Yoda has already departed to Kamino to take possession of the clone army. We're preparing for an assault on Geonosis at the Separatist droid factories. We must be cautious, Mace. There's more to this than we realize. I could not risk relaying this over the comlink." Mace's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, Obi-Wan?" Obi-Wan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation ahead. "During my capture, I met with Count Dooku, and he made several claims. The main one being that a Sith Lord by the name of Sidious controls the Republic, and that this Sith is none other than Chancellor Palpatine." Hearing this, Mace's expression shifted from skepticism to confusion. "Palpatine? That can't be true. Why would Dooku tell you this?" "He spoke with conviction," Obi-Wan continued. "He also confessed that the clone army is a trap, designed to destroy the Jedi, not to help us or the Republic. There are some kind of biochips implanted in the heads of every single clone that, according to Dooku, can be activated to make the clones turn on the Jedi to annihilate us. Mace paced the room. This can't be true, Obi-Wan. Dooku is trying to sow seeds of suspicion among us. Dooku also admitted to being Tyrannus, the man who hired Jango Fett for the clone project. He also said he killed Master Sidious with the help of the Pikes and then took control over the clone army's creation. And also, Mace, I did not escape. Dooku allowed me to leave. Mace stopped in his tracks, turning to face Obi-Wan, suspicion still clouding his eyes. We cannot be sure of Dooku's intentions, but we need to bring this information to the Council immediately. We must tread carefully. If Palpatine truly is this Sidious, we cannot afford to tip our hand too soon. We must keep this a secret. Obi-Wan nodded, but his mind lingered on the upcoming battle. He turned to Mace with a pressing question. What of Geonosis, Mace? Mace Windu, who was the leader of the Jedi Order, processed their predicament and then said the following. Given the gravity of your information, I believe it's best to keep the Jedi forces here on Coruscant. As for the clones, I will send a transmission to Master Yoda, warning him to be wary of the clones. Like you said, Obi-Wan, we don't know who might be listening, so Master Yoda will proceed to Geonosis with the clones alone. It is possible that Dooku is lying. We cannot call off the attack based on what he shared with us. Maybe that was his intention all along, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan again nodded, understanding the approach Mace was taking. Mace soon sent a transmission to Yoda, conveying the urgent warning discreetly to avoid arousing suspicion from any potential spies. Yoda, sensing the potential enormity of the situation, understood the need for caution. He proceeded with the clone army to Geonosis, fully aware of possible dangers, which he was, of course, prepared for. And, like in the original timeline, the Battle of Geonosis unfolded with intense ferocity. The droid army, vast and well-coordinated, clashed with the newly deployed clone troopers. Laser fire filled the air, and the ground shook with the force of conflict. Yoda led the clones with a calm determination, his green lightsaber a blur of motion as he deflected blaster bolts and cut down droids. But, despite their efforts, just like in the original timeline, Count Dooku managed to escape amidst the chaos, and as did Jango Fett and Boba Fett in the absence of Mace Windu on Geonosis. And after all was said and done, just like in the original timeline, the Clone Wars had begun. Upon returning to Coruscant, Yoda was met by Mace Windu and Obi-Wan, who, as Yoda could tell, had much to discuss with him. Master Yoda, Mace began. Obi-Wan has learned troubling information from Count Dooku on Geonosis. Dooku claims that Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord called Sidious, and that the clone army was created as a trap to destroy the Jedi. The two Jedi then told Yoda all of what Dooku shared, and after hearing all of it, Yoda's eyes narrowed, deep in thought. If true, grave this news is, investigate carefully. We must. Yoda then called a council meeting, and pretty soon, the Jedi Council convened. The Grand Chamber filled with an air of urgency. And in this council meeting, Obi-Wan recounted everything Dooku had told him, from the biochips in the clones to the murder of Sidious. The council listened intently, their expressions one of shock. And eventually they come to the decision that even though Count Dooku cannot be trusted, that they should investigate the matter, and that they should keep it a secret from everyone. Then decided it is, Yoda said, his voice steady. Investigate we will. No one outside the council must know of this, until proof we have. Yoda decided to take the lead on investigating this, and as the first part of his investigation, Yoda set out to Kamino, intent on uncovering the truth about the clones. The rain-swept Kaminoan facility was as pristine and sterile as ever, the white corridors and soft lighting creating an almost eerie calm. Yoda's small stature belied the power and authority he exuded as he walked through the pristine corridors of the Kaminoan facility. The white, sterile environment was immaculate, the soft ambient lighting casting a serene, yet almost clinical glow. The Kaminoans, with their tall, slender forms and elongated necks, moved with fluid grace, their expressions composed and inscrutable. Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, guided Yoda with a measured, dignified pace. So soon enough, Yoda was led into Lama Su's office, where the discussions began. Master Yoda, how may we assist you? Lama Su's voice was smooth, almost too calm. Yoda, gazing up at the Prime Minister, said the following. Much to discuss we have, Prime Minister. The creation of the clones and their modifications. Need information about that? I do. Lama Su exchanged a glance with Tanvi, the aide standing beside him. Modifications, Master Yoda? We had briefed Master Kenobi on all of that. Yes, but mention about the inhibitor chips, you did not. Tell me more about this, you will. The Kaminoan's composure faltered for a fraction of a second, but it was enough for Yoda to notice. Lama Su's eyes, usually so serene, flickered with a hint of apprehension. But the Kaminoan, since he believes that Tyrannus is also a Jedi, figured that maybe Tyrannus had relayed this information to Yoda, but either way, he was certain that Yoda knew. The inhibitor chips, Master Yoda, are designed to ensure obedience among the clones. They are a necessary precaution. Yoda's ears twitched slightly as he considered this. A precaution, you say? Provided by Tyrannus, these chips were. Correct, Yoda asked. Tanvi shifted uncomfortably, her elongated fingers intertwining in a nervous gesture. Yes, Master Yoda. The Jedi Tyrannus oversaw the project after Sifo-Dyas ceased his communications with us. Tyrannus provided these chips and insisted on their inclusion for the safety and stability of the clone army. Yoda then looked away, his features speaking of deep contemplation. Speak with this Tyrannus, I must, Prime Minister. Contact him, can you? Lama Su hesitated, his usual confidence wavering under Yoda's piercing gaze. There is an emergency communication line that we can use to reach him, Master Yoda. It is highly secure. Lead me to this communication line, you will. Speak with the Jedi Tyrannus, I must. Lama Su nodded, his reluctance giving way to a sense of duty. Very well, Master Yoda. Follow me. Yoda then followed the Kaminoans through the pristine corridors of the facility, and soon the Grand Master was led to a heavily secured section of the facility, a stark contrast to the openness of what Yoda had seen so far. The doors were reinforced, and the hum of machinery was more subdued here, giving the space an eerie quietness. Lama Su pressed a series of buttons on a control panel, and the door in front of them opened with a slight hiss. Inside, the room was dimly lit, with a large communication console at its center. The console screen glowed with a soft blue light, casting an otherworldly glow on the faces of those present. Lama Su and Tanvi then stepped forward, and Yoda still followed them. We'll initiate communications right away, Master Yoda, Lama Su said. Good, Prime Minister. Wait, I will, Yoda said. Lama Su nodded and began entering a sequence of commands into the console. The screen flickered for a moment before displaying a secure communication interface. The Kaminoan glanced at Yoda, a hint of unease still present in his eyes. Undetectable to most, but Yoda could see it. Connecting now, Master Yoda, Lama Su said. The room seemed to hold its breath as the connection was made. The screen displayed a series of encrypted symbols, and then slowly, the holoprojector began to display an image. And in this image, the face of Count Dooku, known to the Kaminoans as Tyrannus, appeared on the hologram. His expression was one of mild surprise, quickly replaced by a mask of calm composure. Tyrannus, Yoda greeted, his voice carrying the weight of their shared history. Master Yoda, Tyrannus or Dooku replied, his tone respectful but guarded. Yoda then turned to Lama Su and Tanvi. Leave us for now, Prime Minister. Discuss some Jedi matters privately, we must. The Kaminoans exchanged a glance, then bowed and exited the room, their tall forms gliding silently through the door, which closed behind them with a soft hiss. At this point, Yoda again directed his attention towards Count Dooku, his former apprentice. Dooku's eyes briefly flickered with recognition of the gravity of their meeting. He knew that the revelations he had shared with Obi Wan had reached the heart of the Jedi Council. I assume Obi Wan has informed you of the truth, Dooku remarked. Do you still not believe it, Master? Yoda's gaze was intense. Sidious, in league with him you were? Tell me you must, Dooku. Dooku sighed, a mixture of frustration and resignation in his demeanor. I was in league with Sidious. Together we sought to destroy the Jedi and purge the Republic of its corruption. But I have come to realize that the rule of the Sith will be no better than the rule of the Republic. The people will still suffer. He must be stopped, for the sake of the Jedi, the Separatists, the Republic, and the galaxy itself. The room felt colder as Dooku's words hung in the air. Orchestrating the war he is, Yoda said, his voice low. The Clone Wars, the final part of his plan. Dooku nodded, acknowledging Yoda's intelligence. Indeed, Sidious waits for the opportune moment. For now we have time. Palpatine needs more time to solidify his grip on the Republic government. He needs more clones, he needs the Jedi to become more trusting of them. Testify you must before the Republic. Reveal who Palpatine is. You can. Then together, bring him to justice. We will. Dooku's expression hardened. I cannot do that, Master Yoda. The corrupt Republic would never trust my word over Palpatine's. The Droid army and the Separatist leaders ultimately answered to Sidious, not me. If Palpatine knew I had moved against him, it would seal my fate, and his plan would continue unimpeded. And if you, the Jedi, were to attack him directly, that would give him nothing more than legal ammunition to use the clones against you, to execute Order 66 and activate the chips. Me, being a former Jedi, an apprentice to the Grand Master himself, would easily allow Palpatine to sway everyone's sentiments regarding the Jedi. He will make it seem like you are in league with the Separatists and try to overthrow the Republic. He has planned for all of this, Master Yoda. But overconfidence is his weakness. His overconfidence in being able to manipulate someone such as me, that is the only part of his plan that we can exploit. I cannot further risk my position. By warning the Jedi, I have done more for the Republic than the Jedi have managed in a long time. I took a grave risk by telling you. If Master Kenobi or the Council had gone to Palpatine, then that would have seriously jeopardized my position. Yoda's eyes were filled with both understanding and sorrow. Your ultimate hope, Dooku. What is it? Dooku's eyes softened, revealing a flicker of his old idealism. All I want is the corruption gone, Master. I will agree to peace talks between the Separatists and the Republic. Once Sidious is eliminated, there can be no peace with Sidious alive. My ultimate hope, Master, is independence of the Separatist systems from the Republic, nothing more. But those are concerns for a later time. Right now, Master Yoda, Sidious is the gravest threat. The soft glow of the console illuminated the lines of tension on Dooku's face, highlighting the years of conflict and ambition that had brought him to this point. The air in the chamber was thick with the weight of their decisions, the future of the galaxy teetering on the edge of their words. Understand, I do, Yoda said finally. Following which, Dooku went on to list more details about Palpatine, his past. Dooku went into more detail on Darth Plagueis' part in manipulating Sidious, how Palpatine's family had mysteriously all died, after which Ego Damask, the Mune financier who was secretly Darth Plagueis, became a close associate of Palpatine's from an early age. Dooku explained Plagueis' part in orchestrating everything for Palpatine, for bringing Palpatine to the height of power that he now sits in. And finally, Dooku shared how, around the time that Palpatine became Chancellor, Plagueis somehow mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again. Dooku explained that this disappearance was nothing unnatural. This was the rule of two in action. Palpatine had killed Plagueis, as he had no further need of Plagueis. And eventually, as their conversations ended, Yoda said that he will keep all this in mind and would look carefully into the situation. Dooku nodded. May the Force be with you, Master Yoda, Dooku said. And may the Force serve you well, Tyrannus, Yoda replied solemnly. As the communication ended and the screen went dark, Yoda stood alone in the dark, the weight of their conversation settling over him. In the days that followed, the Jedi Temple became a hive of covert activity. The Council operated with an increased sense of urgency and secrecy, understanding the immense stakes at hand. Anakin Skywalker returned from Naboo, unaware of the full gravity of the situation. Despite his curiosity and concern, Obi Wan kept him in the dark about the revelations. Because he wasn't on the Council, he wasn't a master, and he was a Padawan, and on top of that, he had a close relationship with Palpatine. So, sharing such sensitive information with him was definitely not the right thing to do. And so, Obi-Wan didn't do it. Inside the temple, the Council delved deep into the history and background of Palpatine. The Jedi Archives, usually a place of tranquil study, now buzzed with intense investigation. Records were pulled, data combed through, and every piece of Palpatine's past scrutinized. It eventually became apparent that Palpatine's rise to power was shadowed by a series of mysterious and convenient events. His parents had died under unexplained circumstances, leaving him with unimaginable wealth, helping him to climb the political ladder unimpeded. The name Ego Damask emerged frequently in Palpatine's life. Pieces began to fall into place for Master Yoda, and the Council eventually surmised that Palpatine had orchestrated the Naboo crisis to consolidate his power, fulfilling the rule of two by killing Plagueis and becoming the Dark Lord himself. Dooku's claims were being increasingly corroborated by the evidence, painting a chilling picture of Palpatine's machinations. And so, after arriving at the conclusion that Dooku was not lying, the Council met again. The Jedi Masters sat in a circle, their expressions grave as they absorbed the full scope of Palpatine's treachery. Not lying, Dooku was, it seems, Yoda said. Evidence overwhelming it is. The Sith Lord, Palpatine is. Obi Wan, who was also a part of this council meeting despite not being on the council, added, "We need to be strategic. Palpatine's manipulations run deep. Direct assault would not only be dangerous, but could also be perceived as a coup, playing right into his hands." The room was filled with a tense silence as each master considered the implications. Ki-Adi-Mundi, his cone-shaped head reflecting the ambient light, broke the silence. "That we must act with precision. We will only have one chance to remove him, and we must make sure that it is effective." Yoda nodded, his eyes closing briefly as he considered their options. "Plan we must. Careful we must be. Destroy the Sith we must." The council discussed various strategies, weighing the risks and potential outcomes. The environment in the temple became more charged with the urgency of their missions. Every decision, every move was made with meticulous care, understanding that the fate of the Jedi Order and the galaxy itself hung in the balance. As the days turned into weeks following the Jedi's realization that Dooku was now lying, they quietly prepared, having decided upon a strategy. Surveillance on Palpatine was increased, and allies within the Senate were discreetly contacted. As the Jedi Order began preparations for a plan that was pretty out of line in their usual way of handling things, because they figured that if they went about their usual way of handling things, the Sith, who have had 8,000 years to prepare for the Jedi strategies, might see it coming. The Council knew that they had to move swiftly yet cautiously, ensuring that their actions would not tip Palpatine off to their plans. A few weeks later, as the twilight settled over Coruscant, the city planet skyline glowed with the light of countless buildings and speeders. In his office in the Republic Executive Building, Chancellor Palpatine sat in his chair, looking out over the vast expanse of the Ecumenopolis. The dark of the night crept slowly in the city's horizon, and Palpatine found it symbolic. Soon he would shroud the galaxy in the same darkness, bringing about the ultimate reign of the Sith. But suddenly, as he was rifling through these thoughts, a ripple in the Force made Palpatine tense. He sensed an imminent threat, one that was dangerously approaching him. Before he could react, an EMP blast detonated near the Senate building. The shockwave from this blast disrupted all electrical transmissions, plunging the area into darkness. The lights flickered, then died, security systems failed, and communications were severed. The EMP's impact was profound. The normally bustling Senate building and its surroundings fell silent, save for the distant sounds of confusion and panic. Palpatine's office, usually a sanctuary of control and technology, was now devoid of power. Palpatine was left momentarily confused. The threat, as he could feel, was real and immediate, and approaching him. He tried to contact the Coruscant Guard, but his communicator was dead. Reaching out with the Force, he sensed a flurry of emotions nearby: fear, urgency, and determination. Among the myriad of feelings, he sensed Jedi rushing towards him, intent on securing his safety. Among them, Palpatine could distinctly sense young Anakin Skywalker. The boy's concern for Palpatine's safety was stark, a beacon in the chaos. Anakin's emotions, as Palpatine could always sense, were raw and intense. His loyalty to the Chancellor, unwavering. Palpatine's eyes narrowed as he stood from his chair, the dark fabric of his robes rustling in the silence. He moved to the center of the room, and then soon enough, the door to his office was pulled open, revealing Anakin and some other Jedi with the Coruscant Guard. Anakin's eyes were wide with concern. "Chancellor, are you all right?" Anakin asked. Palpatine, maintaining his calm demeanor, replied, "I'm fine, Anakin. What happened?" "We're not sure, sir. It seems EMP blasts have gone off in multiple parts of the Senate District. This appears to be a coordinated attack by quite possibly some rogue element in the Separatist Alliance." Palpatine nodded. "An unexpected move. We must ensure our safety and find out who's behind this, Anakin," Palpatine said, hearing this. "The Masters are on it, sir. They're busy containing the situation, which is why I was sent to make sure that you stay safe. We can't go airborne due to the EMP risk and the uncertainty of what else might be out there. So, under the circumstances, I believe it's best that we keep you safe in the executive building and stand guard. That is what I was advised to do, sir." "Sounds like the best option under the circumstances, Anakin," Palpatine said, sensing no deception in the young Jedi's words. They quickly moved through the corridors, the floating bioluminescent lights following them, casting an eerie yellow glow. The atmosphere was tense, the usual hum of machinery absent, replaced by the distant sounds of confusion and hurried footsteps. Palpatine could still sense that the danger was approaching, but he couldn't quite make out where from. Eventually they reached the secure room. Anakin led Palpatine inside, where the bioluminescent lights provided a soft, almost ghostly illumination. The electronic doors couldn't be locked due to the EMP, so he was kept shut, with Anakin, the Jedi, and the Coruscant Guard standing watch outside, making sure that no one got in. Palpatine then sat inside the cell, listening to the commotion outside. The guards and Anakin were close by, right outside, their presence a reassuring reminder of his immediate protection. The cell was sterile, with smooth white walls and a cold metallic floor. The air was crisp and still, the only sound being the faint buzz of the bioluminescent lights around him. As Palpatine then processed the situation, his mind raced. A rogue separatist element? This audacious? It seemed unlikely to Palpatine. He pondered if there was more at play. Protocols had been followed, but why hadn't any of the Jedi Masters shown up to ensure his safety? Their priority should have been to protect the Supreme Chancellor, not contain the situation. Anakin was capable, but the Masters did not fully trust him. Palpatine's mind then zoomed out further, connecting the dots. Master Kenobi's escape from Dooku, him being kept in this cell, unable to take flight, all seemed somehow aligned. And then concentrating, Palpatine saw it. The danger wasn't approaching him, Instead, it was he who was approaching the danger, or rather being led to it. The cell he was in, that's where the danger was. Realizing immediately that he needed to get out, Palpatine rushed to the door, but found it locked. The locks had engaged despite the EMP, something only possible if the electrical equipment inside the doors were somehow shielded from the blast. How could this be? Unless it was all planned. Palpatine then yelled out, and Anakin was right outside along with the other Jedi. When the door failed to open from outside, Palpatine heard sounds of lightsabers slicing through the durasteel. Relief momentarily washed over him, but then a new threat emerged. The cell that Palpatine was in began filling with a variant of Deoxys, an extremely potent gas. Palpatine's heart raced as he scanned the room, everything only barely visible under the bioluminescent lights, making the room feel both expansive and suffocating. And then Palpatine saw it. The gas was not coming from the vents or any obvious source. Instead, there were oddly shaped containers embedded in the walls, silently releasing the deadly Deoxys gas. Tiny, almost invisible vents on their surfaces emitted the toxic gas, creating an almost imperceptible haze that began to fill the room. Palpatine knew well the toxic nature of Deoxys. It was in fact part of his training during his apprenticeship under Plagueis, and because of that, Palpatine knew that he had little time. He realized that by the time Anakin and the other Jedi cut through the door, he would be dead. With no choice left, Sidious called upon the Force, summoning all his dark power to rip the door apart. The huge durasteel frame began to shudder under the immense strain of his will, the metal groaning and bending as if under an invisible vice. Sidious could feel the Force responding to his desperation, the door starting to buckle and warp. But just like how Plagueis was too intoxicated to fight out Sidious when he had killed him in his sleep, the toxic gas began to take a toll on Palpatine. His vision blurred, and his lungs burned with each labored breath. The Deoxys was seeping into his system, dulling his senses and weakening his control over the Force. He could no longer find the concentration needed. Outside, Anakin and the other Jedi felt the intense surge of the dark side, a powerful, ominous presence emanating from within the cell. And then they saw the door began to move, the metal twisting and creaking as if an immense pressure had been applied. Anakin, most of all, sensed the dark power reaching its peak, and then, just as suddenly, begin to fade. Anakin's eyes widened in alarm, but neither Anakin nor the other Jedi slowed their efforts to get through the doors. "We need to get in now," Anakin shouted, his voice tinged with panic. The Jedi doubled their efforts, their lightsabers slicing through the durasteel with renewed urgency. The sounds of the cutting beams filled the corridor, a sharp, crackling noise that echoed off the walls. Inside, Sidious felt his strength waning. The Deoxys gas was overpowering him, his connection to the Force slipping through his grasp like sand. He collapsed to his knees, the world around him dimming. His vision tunneled, and the room seemed to spin. The last of his strength ebbed away, and with it, his control over the door. Moments later, the Jedi outside broke through, the door falling away in a shower of sparks and molten metal. But right as they walked in to the expansive room, the Jedi saw the effect of the Deoxys gas. They couldn't even approach the Chancellor. The gas was too powerful, its effects too intense. But Anakin, with no thought to any of that, powered through the gas, holding his breath. He then pulled Palpatine outside and called to him, beckoning him to wake up. But the reality soon settled upon him. Palpatine was dead. Anakin dropped to his knees beside Palpatine, his face a mask of shock and grief. "This can't be," he murmured, his voice trembling. The other Jedi exchanged grim looks, and the clone troopers lowered their heads, their expressions reflecting the profound implications of what they had just witnessed. Moments later, Obi Wan, who was in the Jedi Temple, received a transmission from Anakin. Anakin sounded very emotional to Obi Wan, and he told Obi Wan that Palpatine was gone. And hearing this, Obi Wan felt a sense of relief and concern. Relief that the Sith Lord had been dealt with, and concern for Anakin, as he had just lost someone who he viewed as sort of a father figure. Obi-Wan tried to calm down Anakin, and told him to return to the temple, and that whoever was responsible would be found. But of course, Obi-Wan knew who was responsible. It was the Council. This was the best plan they could come up with, which was the result of meticulous planning by the Council, and careful orchestration of various events. But the Jedi Order, with its 25,000 years of knowledge, managed. So in the following days and weeks, several things happened. Palpatine's funeral was held on Naboo, for many Jedi, including the Council and Anakin, were present. And soon enough, a new Chancellor was elected, following which, surprisingly, Count Dooku agreed for peace negotiations. And surprising many, a peace agreement was soon forged. The separatist systems were given their independence, because even though Dooku was willing to seek peace, he still had the droid army. And now with Palpatine gone, it was fully under his control. So the Republic and the Jedi knew that Dooku had to be given what he wanted, which was independence. And further, the Republic agreed to not stand in the way of any system that wanted to be part of the Separatist alliance. This would force the Republic to change its ways, to make its system see that being part of the Republic was better. And this meant eliminating corruption. So things began to move forward in this manner. As for the clone army, pretty soon their inhibitor chips was removed galaxy-wide. This of course became news over the holonet, and the story that everyone believed was that the clones, since there was no longer a war, had to be free to act out their own wills, and that their biochips stood in the way of doing that. And it was a policy seen in a good light by many, so the Jedi Order was safe. They had an army that was free of inhibitor chips, and there was peace in the galaxy. And as for Anakin, well, his and Padme's relationship further progressed, but in this timeline, it wouldn't come under threat from anything. Maybe their political ideologies would often clash, but they'd be fine. As for Palpatine's death, that would always be a problem for Anakin, because the overwhelming dark side he had sensed from the other side of the cell left him puzzled, and the Jedi Council didn't seem all too interested in following that line of thinking. Anakin wondered if Palpatine was a Sith or something, but that didn't make sense. But he would never get any clear answers, not from anyone. And so, in the end, Count Dooku has successfully brought peace to the Separatists and even in the Republic by fostering a system that required the Republic to change its ways to keep its systems within it. And that is it for this What If. I hope you enjoyed, and I would like to thank CJ Russell, Lord Newt Newt, and Rufus Nelson IV for supporting the channel on Patreon. And if you too are interested in supporting the channel for $1 or more a month, do check out my Patreon. Link should be in the description. And also, if you're in the market for some t-shirts or caps or mugs or something, I have a few in the shop, so check that out if you have the time. And yeah, that's it. If you have any What If ideas, let me know, and have an awesome rest of the day. And I will see you in the next video. Well, I wouldn't see you, but I guess you'll hear my voice. Anyways, goodbye. Have an awesome rest of the day, and stay hydrated on the water of life. And may Master Yoda be with you always.